recently received a note from someone, one of our members. They read where I had mentioned intensive spiritual practice in one of my articles, and asked what I meant by intensive. Well, I could have looked it up in the dictionary, but that was all right. Intensive means concentrated, focused. It doesn't necessarily mean intense or forceful, but it means focused. Just stay on point, stay on course. A spiritual path is not a route that leads to a destination, but it is a course of action, a chosen course of action, of effective action, that enables us to experience psychological transformation as necessary, and removes really the afflictions or the obstacles that interfere with spontaneous spiritual awakening and emergence of innate qualities and knowledge. That's what a spiritual path is. Many people mistake the spiritual path for all the procedures and all the relationships and the so forth they have, but those can be included. But a spiritual path is a specific course of action chosen and performed to produce results or allow results to be experienced. And so again, concentrated on essentials, what works, and ignoring what is not essential, what doesn't work. That is the way to have steady, progressive, rapid progress on your spiritual awakening quest. And some individuals awaken quickly, others more slowly, but still, everyone can awaken. Someone asked Paramahansa Yogananda on one occasion why Mr. Lynn, whom he said was his most spiritually advanced male disciple, Mr. Lynn, as many of you know if you've read the SRF literature, was a millionaire businessman in Kansas City, the president of 2 insurance companies, and later got into oil, drilling oil and so forth, successfully drilling for oil. But he was a millionaire by the age of 30, and he met Paramahansa Yogananda when he was in his late 30s, and he was very successful financially, pillar of the community, a philanthropist, well known in the Midwest, but overweight and not inwardly fulfilled, not completely happy, he said, and nervous. But after he met Paramahansa Yogananda and learned how to think, to live right, and to eat right, and to meditate right, his life was transformed. Someone asked one time, why has he made such fast progress? And Master said, because he asked the right questions. Usually, how do I do this? How can this be done? And then when he was informed, then he would do it. And so it's simply a matter of learning what needs to be done and learning to do it and then doing it. And recall the story Norman Vincent Peale used to tell. Norman Vincent Peale, many of you will recall, that was this Mr. Positive Thinker. He was a well-known speaker and author and minister of Marble Collegiate Church in New York City for many years, popular speaker at the business conferences and so on. Also the founder and lead writer in Guidepost magazine that was widely circulated and still is, I guess, for many. And he told the story of how he lectured at a business conference on one occasion and in New York City, and a man came forward and said he enjoyed his presentation, and Dr. Peale said, well, why don't you come to church? He said, I preach and teach classes over at Marble Collegiate Church, and why don't you come to our services and you'll learn a lot of new things. And the fellow said, I don't use half of what I know now. So if what you know, if it's worth knowing, use it. Use it effectively, and stay on course. That's the important thing. Once you're on the right course, then stay on it, and don't go from one philosophical system to another, or one meditation routine to another. Find out what works for you, and then stay with it. So that's the way to proceed. It's also helpful to clearly understand the meanings of the words that you use to communicate to others and to acquire knowledge. So know the meanings of these words. I had a handout sheet, was it Monday, and I had some of the words defined. Know the meaning of the word self with uppercase S. We use that word to indicate our essence, our true nature, which is permanent and changeless and pure. That is the self to which we refer when we use the term self-realization. Realization is actual experience along with knowledge of something. So self-realization is actual experience with knowledge of your essence, your true nature. When you know your true nature as it is, you are self-knowing or self-realized. And it's different from just knowing about it or having acquired some information from others. This is actual personal experience, a knowledge which is revealed or emerges from within you, the knowledge that you have innately. And then the word God is a word. It's an English language word used mostly by adherents of monotheistic religious traditions, Christians, Muslims, and others. But it's not a person's name, or God, of course, is not a person and not a personalized being, but that's the name given to that reality by many people. It is a name commonly used. But so understand what that reality, that ultimate reality called God, understand what it is, at least intellectually, have a grasp of what it is. It has an absolute or pure aspect without attributes or characteristics, which just is what it is, without beginning and without end, and it can be apprehended intuitively, it can be experienced directly, but it cannot be adequately conceptualized or pictured in your mind because it doesn't have any attributes or characteristics. So you can't picture it completely, accurately in your mind, although you may try, and it's not harmful to try. But it is to be realized or experienced and known, and that is the absolute or pure, changeless aspect of ultimate reality, or what people call God. But that reality has an expressive aspect, it is not two people or two things. It is simply two aspects of the same thing. And the expressive aspect has attributes which make possible the emanation of universes. So, and that aspect is sometimes called the Oversoul, or the Godhead, or I call it the radiant field. It is that out of which the forces emanate that produce universes, and what are called souls or units of that reality, according to this philosophical thesis, are produced, not created, but simply produced as the result of the interaction between the influences of the radiant field and the primordial field of nature, which is Om, with the characteristics of space-time and fine cosmic forces. The interaction between those two result in the production or individualization of units of pure consciousness. And then, as these units become involved with the outflowing inertial influence of the primordial field, they take on a mind, they take on an intellect, faculty of discrimination, they take on a mind which accumulates memories of perceptions, impressions of or memories of perceptions, and then a very fine sheath or covering of magnetic field forces, electric forces, then an astral sheath of life forces and energies, and then the physical body. This is the theory, at least, and can be explored. And it's better. It's more useful to explore it and have our own realization, rather than just be a believer in someone else's explanation. Although we have to start somewhere, so it's a good idea to acquire useful knowledge from knowledgeable people, and then examine it carefully, using our own powers of discriminative intelligence, so that we understand it for ourselves and not just pass it on to others or play with it in our minds because an authority figure has said this is how it is. So, because it is the knowing what is true that liberates our consciousness, restores it to its original pure wholeness, not believing in someone else's opinion about something. So that's why the emphasis is on knowing the truth for ourselves, and that liberates, that frees us, then because we have understanding then. But so it's well to examine these words and these concepts, and to have some understanding of them. Get to the core of what is true. And sometimes when you're examining philosophical concepts and themes, it's a good idea to temporarily, at least, put aside all of your preconceived ideas and everything else you've learned along the way from someone else or even thought about. Put them all to one side and just look at it directly and say, what is the truth about this? And see what happens. So, and remember, since all knowledge of this that is in this ultimate reality, in which you are an individualized unit, is also in you. That's important to remember. It is in you. So, as you clarify your awareness and are able to rise above your ordinary or modified states of mind and consciousness, your innate knowledge can emerge. And it just emerges spontaneously, effortlessly, when it is allowed to do so, when it can do so. It just comes forth. Sometimes it comes forth a little at a time, seemingly in glimpses, and other times there's a sudden flash, and it's all before you. Suddenly you just see it. Not necessarily see anything visually, but we say, I see something, you comprehend it, suddenly you comprehend it. It's there. And then if someone asks you, what did you see? You say, gee, I can't explain it. To your satisfaction, because it's so vast. And awesome. Like in the Bhagavad Gita, in the story, those of you who have read the Bhagavad Gita, and I hope you have, and if you haven't, I hope you will, read my edition first, of course. The eternal way, and if you can wade through the introduction and understand the meaning of the names of the characters in the first chapter, then you'll understand what the Bhagavad Gita is all about. It is a story about the contest, really, between our spiritual inclinations and the tendencies of deluded mind, of our deluded mental characteristics. But as I mentioned yesterday, the character Krishna represents our own enlightened consciousness. Arjuna, one of the key characters, who is represented as a disciple of Krishna, represents us as we are asking questions and we are inquiring about higher realities and wanting to know about how to be spiritually awake. But In the first few chapters, there is discussion of various yoga practices, yoga traditions, classical yoga traditions. First, the second chapter deals a little bit with Samkhya yoga or philosophy of the manifestation of universes, and then goes on to chapters on karma yoga, selfless performance, selfless but skillful performance of actions, right actions, and then a chapter on meditation, and then later chapter on devotion, and then in the middle of the book, Arjuna asked Krishna to reveal the truth, the transcendent reality, and that Krishna through grace allows Arjuna to have a glimpse of the cosmic reality, and it's so overwhelming that he says, "Please let me see your personal form. I prefer to see you as I am familiar with you. I'm more comfortable with this personalized form, because it's too awesome to behold and maintain at least the perception of this immensity and cosmic manifestation." So be intent on discovery. That's the important thing. Be intent on discovery. And now and then a question is asked, how soon can I be enlightened or spiritually enlightened? There's no guarantee that it can be done in a few years. Certainly not in a few days or weeks. Now and then we hear of people who are so ripe for the awakening that they suddenly have instantaneous enlightenment. But that is very, very rare. For most people, it takes a while. But I'm a believer that we can accomplish it, or it can be actualized. I don't want to emphasize that we can accomplish it on our own, but it can be actualized in our current incarnation if we aspire to have that realization, if we hold to that, and that it can be done in one incarnation.